Good morning, class, and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a tutorial using recycled weave. You know, sometimes you have your weave and you already used it in your hair and you're wondering what you can do next. Well, then you can make a wig out of it. All right, so today we're going to need what we are using today. What I'm using on the mannequin's head. We did I wrapped the hair and I placed what we call end wraps onto the hair right around, so that when we use the glue, none of the glue will get onto the client's head or your person that you will be working on. We don't want to compromise any of the person's hair, so we base the entire head using end wraps. Okay, I'm also going to be we will need a scissors, we will need our glue, and of course our recycled weave. All right. You can probably use a paper, because you know glue when it gets on clothing, it tends to be very difficult to remove. So I'm going to use this paper to place my weft while I am applying the glue to it. Okay, so let's get started. So before we actually begin placing our wefts on, we're going to put on our weaving cap. And I'm using the mesh weaving cap today because I prefer to use these because they have the vents in them and it's more breathable for persons. And like if you want to scratch the head or so, you know, it's much more easier to be able to work with this particular mesh cap. Right, so we're going to make sure and we're going to place it just showing the earlobe, and we're going to place it just above the brows. Now, some of the times when we use these nets, they tend to come with excess net. So what we're going to do, we're just going to make a small knot. Just on the top here. And what we're going to do is use our weaving needle and thread. And we're going to sew just under where we place that knot. We're going to go underneath it. Not directly under, we're going to just leave a little excess. That is where we're going to cut off this excess piece of net that is above it. So just using normal stitches, we're going to just sew and secure that into place. And then we're going to cut off just above it. Alright? So we get that nice flat feel there. Okay. So let's get started. So as we begin, we're going to use this nape of the neck here as our first measurement for where we are placing our weft. So we're going to measure from one end to the next, and that's where we're going to cut off first. Now we're not going to stick it directly down to the bottom. We're going to just leave a little excess, and we're just going to go just above that for our first placement. And we're going to place our glue on the inside of the weft. Turn it around and we're going to place it into place. Hold on to it a little and make sure the glue pulls and settles in. Sometimes you may have to put a little extra to the edges to make sure they are secured in place. Now as we go on, we're just extending. We're going to extend the weave just a little further than the first weft that we placed. And we don't have to go too close because the weave that we are using is a curly weave. So you would find that we don't want the hair to look too full, because sometimes it tends to look, yes, we know it's a wig, but we don't want everybody to know, okay, yes, it's a wig she has on. They must always kind of wonder whether or not it's a wig or probably it's a weave. So the more natural it looks is better. So we don't want to place it too close. So we're going to continue to place this just behind, keeping behind the egg. right? When we reach above the ears, then we're going to extend it straight out towards the face. But for now, everything that we are doing is going to be keeping behind the ear. So every time you place another weft, it's just going a little extended, a little more past the other, right? Until we reach a certain point. And in some cases, why I say to space out, because sometimes what happens with some persons when they're doing a wig, they place the weave very closely. I've seen it happen with past trainees. They place the weft very closely, and when they reach the top of the head, the weave runs out, and then there is nothing you could do. Sometimes, if it is that you continue to place it a little further, you would find that even if you end up with excess weave, you can always fill in the gaps, as they were to say. But when you place it too close, it makes it more difficult to remove the weft and have to replace here over again. So it's better that you place it at little space between it. As I said, underneath can be spacey. It's when you reach the top, that's what makes it difficult. You know, you can always hide the falls underneath, but not on top. So we have to pay close attention to that. We just spacing our weave, just leaving a little space, especially when doing curly weave. You can afford to do that. So you might be looking and saying, but look at the space between there. Don't be intimidated by that, because when we reach the top normally covers all that. And as I said before, if there is any need for fills, you always can go over and do some fills with the excess that you may have. But the most important thing right now is making sure that we do the placements. Okay, so when we reach just above the ear, we're going to approaching the top of the ears here. So we're going to stop right there before we continue, because as I said before, when we reach above the ears, we're going to extend the weave straight out to the temples. Because remember, when we fit a weave, you don't wear the weft over your ears. It goes behind your ears. So just as how you would wear it, is exactly how you would place your hair as well. So this is the last one before we go and start to extend. Now, when I mean extend, you see how as the weave goes up, the hair, the spacings between them showing less? This is what I was trying to explain before. So we extend it just to where the tightness begins on the head here. We're not going to go on it because we're going to leave that, so when we're trying to put on our wig, this will be used to help pull. And we're just going straight around and extending it again. Alright? And when you reach there, you just measure and you cut. Okay, so we're continuing. I just have this little piece of brown, so I decided I want to put it a little bit just to highlight a little. Not much, it may not show up much, but just instead of it just looking plain. So I'm going to use a piece here, and then I'm going to take the other closure, and I'm going to just place the closure on top. There's recycle here we're using, so we're going to get a little tangle in here and there, so that is expected. A little space there, so I just wanted to lock that in right there. Just see, this is the closure that we'll be using, so I'm just going to measure just to see if this would be enough, or which side I'll have to place my emphasis on more. So I will have to use it as a middle part, because of the amount of weight that I'm using. So So, as I said, we will be using the closure. This weave came with a closure. So we're going to be using the closure to fill in this gap here. Alright, so I'm going to place my glue all around the edges. And I could even place it in the middle as well too, because you don't want this for atelier. When you see you're using wigs and so on, you don't want any kind of mishaps at all. So you'll be using, and we're just going to leave it to get just a little tacky. When I say tacky, it's just for the glue to pull a little. And then I'm going to place it on the middle right there. Some persons may wonder concerning the end papers underneath. When as I said, the end papers takes the bulk of the glue. When you take off the wig, yes, you would get paper on the neck, but what you can do is just remove it, and it's not a problem. Even if it's there, it's not going to be seen, it's not going to be visible to the eye, so you don't have to worry about that in any way. It just looks and appears that way, but it's not going to be in any way, you're not going to see anything in any way. All right, so don't be worried. Trying to utilize every piece that I have, every little piece. Okay. Now we're going to place it. You see, I'm placing it for you all to see what I'm doing. I'm just going to press it. Keep pressing until it stays firmly in place. Now you see what I was telling you about, that it would not, even though we did not put the weave closely together at the bottom, that it didn't compromise in any way. It didn't, you're not seeing anything as such. So this is what I'm saying. So, and the wig looks as full and normal. All right. So this is our finished product here of a recycled hair. So you know what you were going to throw away, you can always have it to use for further, you know, emergencies, as we were to say. And if it is like you find your weave like it's dry, like for instance the ones that I used to the underneath was a little more dry than the ones on top, so that's why I kept the ones on top. I'm going to just put a little bit of this latter body coconut shea oil on the ends just to give it a little more moisture. It's really thick, so I'm just going to place a little. Let's massage it in here, and just place a little on the ends of it, so that when it dries out, it'll add a little more moisture to the hair, and it smells really good too. Cutting would be optional, it's up to you if you want to cut it, but some people like their hair long, so we can leave it long. Alright, so this, everyone, is the complete look. As I said before, you see it's full, it's moist, it's everything that you would want in a wig. Okay, so any further questions, you can always place it in the comment section and I will respond to you. Thank you.